Melody here. You might know me as ApplePie Movement. I am a humanitarian sharing the conversations with humanity which need to be heard. In today's conversation with my cousin Rand Tucker, we discuss how he has used his platform of being the founding and senior pastor of Hyde Vineyard over the last 25 years to create social justice within Chicago. So come on, grab a piece of pie and join our conversation.
Is your church involved at all with gang ministry or helping some of the youth to get out of gangs and provide them with enrichment opportunities for alternate lifestyles?
You know, that really hasn't been our primary focus, or what, you know, where we're at, our focus has been more like helping the local homeless that are on the streets in the community here. We do have a youth ministry for junior high and high school kids. And we have kids coming from other neighborhoods to that. But, you know, we're not directly involved with street ministry in other neighborhoods where gangs are really prevalent.
When you touched earlier on education and some people not feeling safe, can you expand on that? Why would people not feel safe to pursue higher education if they have that opportunity?
Well, I'm thinking more of like kids who feel unsafe walking to their junior high or high school. You know, like it's just reality is, you know, when you get to know kids in the city, you know, like Amy, my wife, she ran Young Life here on the South Side in our neighborhood and in surrounding neighborhoods. And it would be common for kids to know a friend or have a family member who was shot. One girl who was involved with Young Life used to come over to our house, and then she got employed by our church for a while. I mean, her brother died from a gunshot, and he was loosely affiliated with a gang, maybe more involved than we knew. But he lost his life. You know, it's like, so I've lost track of the question at this point, but basically, you know, a lot of kids safe going to school, it's because they know it could be a drive-by shooting, it could be a target of some, you know, somebody who, there could be a miscommunication or some sort of offense that happens. We live outside the neighborhood where our church is at. We're just a couple miles north. And, you know, in the last 7-8 years, 3 teens that were shot that weren't they weren't in gangs. One was walking to his grandmother's house. He was 17, he was shot. You know, gang members thought, you know, he was kind of intruding on their territory or maybe part of another gang. There was a high profile situation, a girl named Dia Pendleton, she died. She had just gone to the White House, and with the local high school, she was back. She was with 5 or 6 other kids in the local park. 2 guys in their early 20s, they were encroaching on their space. One hopped over the fence of a playground. These kids were under an underhang, shot a couple of them. They ran down the street. Crazy kind of connection there, like an older Jewish woman who's mostly blind, who's a dog walker that I know. She was there as these kids ran up. They were both shot. So she's like calling 911, and you know, one's dying, the other one ends up living, but she's not connected to a lot of different people. So it was kind of crazy to get a phone call from her and just say like, you know, I'm Jewish, but can I talk to you? I just need to talk to somebody to process what's happened, you know, and chatting with her about the trauma that she felt and seeing them go through this trauma. But, you know, it's like, she was just at the White House, but she was shot just a couple blocks from Michelle and Barack Obama's house. I mean, it's like, you know, it's like this crazy juxtaposition. There's another kid, 14, at a local park. I mean, I take my kids to that park and hang out and play there. And he was walking back, and there was a mistaken identity situation where there was a conflict over social media, and a couple guys got in their car driving around looking for these guys they had the conflict with, and these two teens, 14 and 15, the 14-year-old died. I mean, this is like across the street from where Ella goes to went to preschool. I mean, it's like, so it's a strange situation when you sort of live near a war zone, but you aren't in the center of the war zone. Sometimes, you know, shootings and other those things, you feel like you don't have it so bad. And then our church is just kind of outside that fringe area, you know what I mean? So we still have shootings in our neighborhood here, but they're less directly related to gang activity unless it relates to a drug situation that's gone wrong. Right?
Right. That's a hard and difficult position to be in. Do you feel that maybe if your church and other community leaders were to create partnerships with other gang leaders and people on the streets to create maybe a safe zone, a safe time, maybe community leaders could, you know, kind of do a walk pool to school from certain pickup location, so then kids can be able to go to school and come home safely. Maybe some kind of a mentorship opportunity that maybe that could solve for some of this, because when I was in ministry, I actually used to mentor gang kids, and it's a weird it's a weird situation, but there is a large gang in Anaheim, and it just so happened that one of my very close friends, his little brother was the leader of this very notorious gang in Anaheim, and he was in a lot of trouble. His brother wanted him out, so his brother vouched for me, and I ended up in the middle of this druggy hotel working with all of these gang kids. They waved me on. They had scouts looking out for me so I could go in and out and help them. And long story short, basically, you know, the little brother, he got stabbed at our church, and it was a gang stabbing. He was trying to get out of the gang, and you know, it was a horrible situation. But long story short, basically, he was in the hospital. And while he was in the hospital, the other kids came to me and they said, Ms. Melody, you know, the staff at the hospital is being mean to us. You know, we're not doing anything. They're harassing us. Can you help, right? So I set up like a sting operation with the kids where like I had them put this chair in there in between like the shifts when the nurses were being mean to them. And I went in before the nurse that was, you know, harassing them came in, and I sat there and I had the chair to the back so she couldn't see that I was in there. So she came in and I told the kids, you know, behave as how you normally are and everything like that. And so they did, and they weren't doing anything wrong. They're just being kids and talking and entertaining their friend and everything. She came in and she was harassing them. So then I stood up and she just turned ghost white, and I confronted her and I told her, you know, you are not to do this. This is wrong. You're harassing these kids. I'm going to call corporate on you. And basically, you know, I threw a big fit over it. So in that situation, because I spoke up for them, it spoke to all of those kids in that room. All of those kids in that room got out of that game. And to this day, some of them still correspond with me, and a few of them moved down to Texas places, and they're married and they have kids. So in that one situation, just a community leader speaking up for them and defending them when they were being harassed and they were being judged and they were trying to change their lives and they couldn't, you know, it changed those 5 people, those kids, they changed their life. So is there any kind of community partnership where leadership could speak up to kids, you know, for kids that are trying to change their lives and get out of that or not enter into it?
Yeah, and you know, your suggestion was already anticipated, and the city's created something called Safe Passage. So when kids are actually going to school now, you'll see hundreds of employed people all over the city wearing yellow jackets, standing on the routes that kids are going to walk from the bus to the local area. In rougher neighborhoods, I think the kids still feel that pressure, because it's not just what happens, say, in that moment on the way to school, but it's also like when you find somebody in another situation or location. But I think you bring up a great point. It's like often when there's an advocate for somebody, that some injustice or imbalance or unsafe situation gets rectified. You know, I think that's why when people speak up about Ahmaud Arbery and they draw attention to what's happening, then the justice system that's broken and imbalanced now has to adjust and, you know, go through a court situation that you would hope would be fair in that situation. But when there's no arrest being made and there's nobody speaking up, then the injustice doesn't even make it into the justice system. Whether there's fair justice once it's a system is a whole other issue. So, you know, part of it is like, it's easy to gravitate towards the violence and talk about these class issues and to highlight the gangs. And in many ways, it's one of the dominant issues in the whole situation in Chicago.
Thank you everyone for joining another ApplePie Table Talk, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.
Bye. Bye, Melody.
Bye, Rand. Thank you.
All right. I'll talk to you later.